Hello, I'm Chris Ossman, and this is Solutions. Enough complaining, let's fix America. I'm going to be reading another excerpt from my book of the same name. This is chapter 6, and it's basically a part 2 to what was going on yesterday. The chapter is entitled, or the section is entitled Resources. Who owns them? When considering raw materials such as water, oil, wood, minerals, metals, etc., the absolute answer is no one nor anything should own them. Maybe the argument could be made that Mother Earth owns all of these resources, since it was the Earth that cultivated them in various processes taking millions of years. Even this claim fails to attribute true ownership because it still begs the question, where did Earth get the materials to create its resources? Ultimately, it came from the universe, which may in turn only be one of many in the multiverse, so true ownership is difficult to nail down. A definitive answer to this question, however, is not necessary for this discussion. Instead, I will limit custody of Earth's resources to Earth and its inhabitants. Given this limitation, who can rightfully exploit our natural resources and at what cost? My personal view is that the resources developed by the planet belong to Earth and every one of its inhabitants. As such, the oil that corporations like Exxon draw from the ground belongs to every person and animal on Earth. The water that companies like Nestle sucks out of the Great Lakes belongs to every person and animal on Earth. The same holds true for every tree, air molecule, rock, and everything that any man, woman, child, or animal could survey. It belongs to all of us. Now, for those of us who believe that we have been given the right of dominion over the planet based on religious teachings, I warn the following. Religious text has and will always be susceptible to human interpretation. According to some religions, those who don't practice your religion should be converted or put to death. Some religions even make this claim while preaching that one should love thine enemy. It is not, however, my desire to demean any religion, but simply to point out that should we use religion as a basis for who has dominion over what, opposing religions will always thwart any attempt at resolution. For now, let's keep religion out of the conversation pertaining to the rightful ownership of the planet's resources. Let's instead focus on more tangible arguments. Now, as far as who owns what, could an argument be made that whoever has access to a raw material should have exclusive rights and ownership to that raw material? As an extension of this argument, couldn't it be said that anything to which we have access is ours for the taking? If this is true, couldn't the following two arguments also hold true? Quote, if I can reach the oil, then it is mine. Or, quote, if I can touch that mansion, then it is mine. I doubt that the owner of the mansion would agree to the logic of such a claim. I believe that the owner of said mansion would only be willing to consider another person's claim of ownership if this second party were to consider some form of compensation for the property in question. To simply relinquish ownership of one's home is preposterous, as is the idea that we as members of Earth's community implicitly agree to the belief that oil companies are entitled to crude oil that they had no part in creating. The idea that they have no obligation to compensate the rest of us for a resource that belongs to all inhabitants of the planet is a slippery slope upon which we could bind ourselves. What's next? Are corporations going to claim that not all people are entitled to water? Oh wait, that's already happened. The CEO of Nestle said just that as the company was stealing so much water as to appreciably lower the Great Lakes. Source will be provided below. Now, obviously, water is not oil, but both are natural resources that need to be protected, though for completely different reasons. While the argument to protect water is obvious, the argument for the protection of oil may be just as important, if not more so, due to its impact on our civilization, species, and environment. Without any kind of impediment, oil corporations will continue to draw fossil fuels out of the ground so they can refine them and sell them to us, so we can in turn pump more toxins into the only atmosphere in which we find ourselves able to survive right now. So consider that it took Earth millions of years to create oil, and oil companies claim dominion over the oil just by buying a lease to the land in which to drill that oil. Now, that just doesn't seem right, and maybe we should consider a universal basic income like they have had in Alaska for years or decades, where every barrel of oil contributes to the universal basic income of every Alaskan citizen. Maybe the corporations shouldn't be the only people that have rights on this planet. Maybe all of us should have rights to the resources of this planet. Thank you. And join me again for another Solutions. Enough complaining. Let's fix America tomorrow.